And we're live quickly today. No big load screens today. Okay, so today we are going to briefly look at cover letters, and you will have one of two tasks you can work on while I'm meeting you guys one-on-one about your resumes today. So the first thing that you're going to do, hopefully, is do your peer reviews of each other. So those should be up as soon as the assignment becomes due. It should have been right now, and so now you should have been assigned some people to peer review you. Let me see if that worked out while we're waiting for everybody to join. Let me see if everybody got peer reviewers. Okay, looks like Canvas handed everyone out at least two, so everyone's got at least two people to review. So during the hour or so while I'm meeting with you guys one-on-one, you can also meet with the people you've been assigned to and talk about yours or talk about theirs. You can meet with people you haven't been assigned to and exchange tips and tricks. You can use this time however you want. Just make sure you submit a written peer review, and remember that the peer reviews this time around will be graded for quality, so make sure you give them at least 1, 2, hopefully 3, let's say 2 or 3 solid constructive comments that they can use in some actionable way to make their resume better. All right. And let's see. The other thing that you will be doing if you don't want to work on those peer reviews anymore is writing a cover letter. So I would like you guys to go out there and find one job that you actually do want to apply for. If you already have a job lined up, I realize this is kind of silly, so what I think you should do, and you don't have to if you don't want to, is pick a job that's kind of a moonshot for you, something you're probably not going to get, but you'd be very happy if you did. Maybe it's something you're way underqualified for, or whatever. Just, pick something and play along, and maybe even apply for it, whatever. But for the rest of you who are still applying for work, pick a job that you actually want to apply for that either requires or has the option for a cover letter. And you will write your cover letter for that job. So I'll have you submit the job description or the link to it, and then also the cover letter. And you can go ahead and apply for it right now, or you can not apply for it if you don't want to, if you feel uncomfortable for some reason, or you can hold off until we finish the cover letter part and you've gotten some reviews on yours, and then send your finished project, finished product, whatever you want to do. Up to you, but just pick a real job posting that asks for or has an option for a cover letter and write for that. So let's get into cover letters. Just a quick intro because I think most people probably haven't written one. You definitely don't need one for anything that's not a office job or at least a mid-end white-collar job. You generally don't need one for entry-level jobs, so most of the openings you guys see probably won't require one. I think they're becoming less and less popular. Fewer and fewer recruiters and people on the receiving end of them actually read them. But to some people, they're very important. I personally, if I'm reviewing an application, I read some of the cover letter, the highlights of the resume, and that's about it. So for me, the cover letter is still a big deal. What are cover letters for? You'll hear a lot of conflicting answers on the internet and from recruiters and such, but it breaks down, I think, to what we're going to talk about after format here. So first, how do they look? Well, typically less than a page. I would never go over a page for a cover letter. A half page or so is acceptable too. You don't have to use up all of your room. You can have a nice short cover letter. That's fine. Generally, it's 3 to 5 short paragraphs. Each paragraph probably just a few lines each. I wouldn't go over 5 lines or so in a paragraph. So keep them short and keep the whole thing relatively short. I like to do either double or 1.5 spacing, lots of white space. Make it quick to read. It should be about a 5-minute read tops for your average reader. Just like resumes don't make any typos, make sure you You grammar and spell check it vigorously. Generally, you address them to whom it may concern, unless you know the hiring manager's name. You probably don't, so to whom it may concern is fine. You can address it to the company by name. That sounds a little robotic, though. But at least it shows that it's tailored to them, which is one of the things that's important in cover letters. But something like that, a formality that's not addressed to a specific individual, any kind of formality like that is acceptable. And you should put, like in a formal letter, your whole letterhead, your contact info at the top, or at least just put your name. Either of these are acceptable. Again, no real standard, I think, in these things. A lot of companies will, again, use an auto reader for these, so the name and contact info sometimes gets messed up when they use something like that. So I usually just prefer to put just my name at the top, but you can put your whole formal thing like you would at the top of a letter. And then type or sign your name at the end, say sincerely, regards, yours truly, whatever. But do a formal sign off and put your name at the end. If you're submitting it electronically, which I imagine almost everybody is, then you could do an electronic signature, or you can just type. That's fine too. You don't have to do an electronic signature. Probably nobody cares what your cursive looks like, and being computer scientists, I think most of your cursive looks awful anyway, so you're not doing yourself any favors. So what's the point? You're trying to introduce yourself formally. It's like a formal letter of introduction. It sort of evolves from when there were longer form application packets. The cover letter was your big kind of summary, top level, this is why you should hire me sort of thing. It's to give people an excuse really to read the rest of your application. So you're demonstrating, number one, that you're not a robot that is sending out resume spam. This is a modern use of the cover letter, but it's an important one. So a robot doesn't really usually know how to customize the cover letter and everything. So if you've written something about their company, then they know that you are not just mechanically sending out hundreds of resumes. They see that you've hand-picked this job to apply to, which makes them feel all warm and fuzzy inside. The most important thing, I think, is that it demonstrates that you can write a coherent page of words in English. So the resume is not really writing, right? It's like bullets and split different sections and stuff. You're not actually like just writing. A cover letter is just written paragraphs. So can you write a coherent page of written paragraphs in English? An important skill to have, something every office worker probably needs to have. And so the cover letter demonstrates you have that important ability. It demonstrates that you know something about the company, so you should show that you are aware of the place you're applying for, what they do, something about them that shows that you're interested in them, that shows you put forth some effort. And of course, you're just showing that you put forth effort in general, because writing a coherent page in English is hard work, especially free of typos and grammar, so it shows that you're capable of completing rudimentary tasks. Now, of course, you don't want to write a customized whole cover letter for every company that you apply to. That would take forever. Remember, you might have 100 applications. That'd be 100 pages. For most of us, that would be many hours of work. So I like to include at least one paragraph, and just one paragraph, where I talk about the organization that I am applying to. I like to do it a little at the beginning and then a little at the end, so I don't just do it all in one block. I have a little customized intro and then a customized outro, and then throughout there might be little parts where you have to replace certain lines, like I'm applying for X. So something that you might say is just something nice about the company, like I'm fascinated by your company's progress and such and such. You might say something about the company's reputation, maybe their local reputation. Say, the company is known throughout the area as a top-tier employer. I'd be very excited to work here because of that, etc., etc. You can try to name drop in this portion, although that can be dangerous, especially if that person doesn't actually think that fondly of you. Maybe they don't vouch for you, so make sure that person vouches for you. This also obviously comes off a little dickish to many people out there, so make sure that you don't accidentally irritate folks by name dropping in your cover letter. But how do you know that someone's going to be irritated? I guess you don't. So if you're going to do this, do it. It's probably the best place to name drop. You certainly can't do it in the resume. So if you know somebody there, you can include it in the cover letter. But the best way to get somebody who already works there to vouch for you is to have them speak to the people doing the hiring directly, or pass your application to them directly, or something on their end. It's better not to include somebody's name in the cover letter, thinking that then the hiring people are going to get in touch with them. This probably isn't going to do you too many favors, but still, it's something you can consider. So you could say something like, my friend, Mr. Steve, obviously who works at that company, speaks very fondly of working for you. That's a nice thing to say, and it also demonstrates that you have some in at the company. Doing this, so discussing something nice about the organization, shows that you've done research, you know the company, you know something about what they do, and also that you're not a robot, because robots would not probably be able to write this kind of stuff, or at least not in a way that sounds human. So also, you should describe, and this you could do probably for pretty much every job you apply for, because every job you apply for will be computer sciencey. This section can look pretty much the same for all of the jobs that you apply for. You can recycle it. And that's a generic, where did you hear about the job? So you'll probably be conducting your job search on a few different websites. You can say something like, I'm applying for the X and X job, which I heard about through your advertisement at suchandsuch.com. It lets them know what's working in terms of their advertising for employment and stuff. It's something that they like to see, and so it sort of stands out that you went through the effort to tell them that. And it's also, it tells them that you got the job at that particular website instead of internally, or that you heard about it through word of mouth or something. It doesn't really count against you, as you might think, to have gotten it on the general internet or anything. So don't worry about that. It's not like you're going to be less considered because you heard about the job on Indeed versus some other hiring site. That's not important. So just, you can put where you heard about it. Don't worry about it too much. It's just the standard thing. Say why you're applying. It's pretty obvious, but say, I'm applying for the position of such and such, or I'm applying for quality intern, or I'm applying for whatever. Just specify what position it is that you are applying for again. I don't think you have to say something like, I'm applying to gain employment. That's pretty obvious, but say something about the position that you're applying for, and say something about why it's a good fit for you. This is going to be the same for pretty much all computer science jobs. Say what makes you a good fit. So what makes you a good fit? Well, what are the biggest skills that you bring to the table in a computer science job? What are the biggest talents that you have? What are your most impressive skills in computer science? Why should we pick you instead of another candidate? Why are you better than other computer scientists? What is in your resume that is impressive? This is your chance to highlight the one or two things you find the most impressive so that they can have a look at it. You can say something like, my work experience demonstrates that I'm a tremendous employee, or what have you, anything like that. That's going to make them look towards that part in your resume, towards the work experience part. So whatever it is that you think is most impressive, you can give it a nudge here, give it an extra bump here. You can say something that you might have not had room to say in your resume. And just say what makes you a good worker in general. Say what makes you a model employee. You show up on time, you're, a team player, you're a good worker, you're studious, you're conscientious, all of that lovely stuff. You can put that kind of description of yourself in your cover letter. So I'll post that assignment later, but you get the deal now. Find a job and write a cover letter for it. So the assignment's not going to have any surprises there. So for the rest of class, I will meet with you guys one-on-one in the order that I just posted to Canvas about your resume assignment, and you guys are free to either find and work on a cover letter or peer review one another about the resume. And I will put up the scored peer review assignment as a separate column in Canvas, so there won't be anything to submit. Just submit to where it says to submit your peer review now. There's no setting to make those graded, so I will just grade those in a separate assignment that has no submission. So just submit those as they are now, and note that your grade will be in a different place. All right, thanks, guys. I will see all of you for 5 to 10 minutes very shortly.